Okay, everybody, my name's Harley Smith. I'm going to be your teacher tonight, and we're going to be doing a class on organic biostimulants. Last week was part 1 on plant nutrition. We were looking at essential elements, the fertilizers. We were looking at strategies of spoon feeding, where we give the plant exactly what it needs when it needs it. Because the nutritional needs of the plant change at each stage of the plant's growth. But today we're going to show the other part of that, the organic biostimulants, because the biostimulants actually aid with the uptake of the minerals. They make the uptake of fertilizers and water more efficient by the plant. And the more efficiently plants take up water and minerals, the more chemical reactions they can do. The higher the Brix, the sugar content in the sap. And that's our goal. We want to grow high Brix plants that are full of stored energy that can be released into a burst of fruit and flowers that can also be used for energy to fight off pests and disease. So this is an exciting topic tonight. This is the new frontier in plant nutrition. So it's going to be a little dense. We're going to be doing about 45-minute lecture, but everyone that signed up, I'm going to send them a link to the recording of tonight's class. And if you have questions during the class, go ahead and type them in. It's on the live class because we'll have a question and answer session afterwards. Or if you think of a question later, go ahead and send me an email. Or go ahead and call me or text me. I'm here as a resource for you to help you improve the nutritional value of food and help you improve the medicinal value of the medicines. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Plants are autotrophic. We do this almost every class. I start with this slide because plants are able to make their own food. Do they need biostimulants to grow and reproduce? No, they don't. All they need is 17 essential elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. They need water. They need 14 mineral elements. And with those elements, they harvest the energy of the sun. They take up water through the roots, carbon dioxide through the leaves, and they make sugars. And some of those sugars they use for energy to grow and reproduce. Some they store in the flowers and in the fruit. And some, though, they actually leak from the roots to feed the plant growth promoting rhizobacteria. And in exchange for those sugars, the microbes in the root zone make biologically active molecules. And those biologically active molecules are what we call biostimulants. They actually aid with the uptake of water and nutrients. So biostimulants are organic molecules which, when used in small quantities, improve the physiological response of the plant. It's not the same as the fertilizer. It's not the same as the organic fertilizer. These are smaller molecules that aid with the uptake of the water and minerals. So biostimulants literally improve the uptake of water and minerals. They open up ion channels in the root zone. We'll talk about some of that later in the class today. They stimulate the plant's natural resistance to pests and disease. Also, since they're more efficient at uptake of nutrients, you're literally able to use less fertilizer and get better results because of the efficiency of the uptake. So we don't have to over-fertilize our plants. They stimulate the resistance to powdery mildew, to gray mold. We'll show you that. We'll show you how to condition the plants against stress before the stress happens. And we'll also show you how to generally improve quality and yield. In the Netherlands, they're using organic biostimulants right now that are improving yields by 20%. Using the same inputs, the same fertilizer, the same carbon dioxide, the same lighting, more yield. And not just more yield, higher quality, the best of the best of quality. So we'll show you how that's done today in this class. So it's going to be exciting. So I hope that you're paying attention. But if you miss something, watch it over again or send me an email. Okay, my journey into biostimulants began in the Netherlands. Back in 2001, in the Netherlands, they made all fungicides illegal on food crops because all known fungicides, all synthetic fungicides, had at least the potential for negative side effects for human beings. So the Dutch government said, no more. No more fungicides. So overnight, the growers, especially in the hoop houses with high humidity, were losing 40% of their crop to powdery mildew, to gray mold, to other fungi. That was unacceptable. So they started experimenting with organic biostimulants. And in 2001, I was invited to the Netherlands. I was able to literally interview the grower that was doing the trials for the Dutch government. I saw the results of the trials before the Dutch government did. So they went from losing 40% of the crop to losing 0. They got a 10% increase in yield over any past year, and they were first in the line for sugar content in the fruit. They had the highest Brix, the best of the best in all the Netherlands for the crop that they were producing. So I was very excited. I said, wow, we need this in the United States. What's in it? How does it work? They wouldn't tell me. I even interviewed the German scientist who invented and developed the biostimulants. He said, well, I did 10 years of research and development. I can't just give it all away. So it took me 5 years to solve the mystery. I was digging into plant nutrition, into microbiology, into organic chemistry, biochemistry, just looking for clues. And within 4 or 5 years, I solved the mystery. When I went back to the Netherlands, by the way, about 4 or 5 years later, and told them about the experiments I was doing, they told me that I knew more about their products than they did. So I'm going to share that all with you. You know, I really believe that knowledge should be freely shared. You know, we're just holding on to things, trying to be a little too competitive. I think that I benefit from the inventions of others, from the discoveries of others. I think it's only fair that others benefit from the discoveries and the insights that I've gained through my research. So I'm going to share with you freely tonight what the secret ingredients were in those biostimulant products used in the Netherlands. The number one, this was the key, amino acids. Because amino acids improve the uptake of calcium. 2 of the amino acids, glutamic acid and glycine, literally stimulate root cells to open up calcium ion channels. So the plant takes up calcium 1,000 times faster than simple osmosis. And calcium is king. Calcium, when the ions are taken up, they react with pectic acid in the plant cells to make pectin. That's the glue that cements the cell walls together. So instead of water in the interstitial space, by getting more calcium uptake, they had pectin. Now, when a mold spore lands on a leaf, it wants to send out a germination tube, especially the powdery mildew. The water on the surface of the leaf doesn't cause the powdery mildew to germinate. They want to get to the water and the interstitial space. And then it germinates, becomes systemic, and starts to spread. We'll talk more about this next week when we do our class on integrated pest management. But if you get more calcium uptake, by the time that germination tube penetrates the cells and gets to the water, it dries up and dies. So it doesn't kill the fungus. It's not a fungicide. It prevents the fungus from getting established, becoming systemic, and then spreading through the crop. So that was the key, was the calcium uptake. Now, the amino acids that we're looking at are made in nature's kitchen. They're called L amino acids. They have a left-handed orientation. They're produced through what's called enzymatic hydrolysis. That breaks down enzymes, those are digestive enzymes, that break down proteins into their building blocks. Those are the amino acids. And then they keep their left-handed orientation, and that's the biologically active form of amino acids. If you used acid hydrolysis or alkaline hydrolysis to make amino acids, they'd be right-handed, and they would not be biologically active. So make sure that they're the results of enzymatic hydrolysis. Sometimes if you look at the ingredients on a biostimulant product, it won't say amino acids, it may say protein hydrosylates. It's the same thing, the breakdown products of proteins. Now, the amino acids are what we call intermediate chelators. Chela means claw. So a chelate is an organic molecule that attaches to a mineral ion like a claw. It holds it tightly enough so it doesn't get locked up with other minerals, but loosely enough so it's available to the plant on demand. And that's one of the keys of the biostimulant products. They make the nutrients more available to the plant. So they're more readily available. Also, I found out amino acids prevent limescale. And this is part of how I discovered that relationship between the amino acids and the calcium. I have hard water at home. It's well water, very high in calcium carbonate and magnesium carbonate. So in hydroponics, when I'm adding my phosphoric acid to lower my pH, the phosphoric acid burns off the bicarbonates, it's carbon dioxide and water, but it would react with the calcium to make calcium phosphate. I could literally see crystals of calcium phosphate forming, sparkling in the water and falling out of solution like snowflakes. But when I started experimenting with amino acids, first thing I noticed, no more limescale. At the end of the grow, instead of having a rock garden on the bottom of my reservoir that I couldn't even scrape off, that white, limescale stuff, instead of having that, I took a paper towel, wiped a little film of algae, rinsed it with the hose, it was clean. So I wondered, where did that calcium go? Into the plant. And that's because two of the amino acids, glutamic acid and glycine, not only chelate the calcium and keep it soluble, they stimulate the plant to take up calcium 1,000 times faster than simple osmosis. So that was part of the secret in the Netherlands. Even in the hoop houses with high humidity, they were still getting strong calcium uptake, stronger disease-resistant plants. So the amino acids, as part of that biostimulant, became plant protection agent. In fact, a year later, after I visited the Netherlands, the Dutch government approved that biostimulant product as a plant protection agent. Now here in the United States, even understanding how this works, it's done in nature all the time. Microorganisms on the root zone make proteases. They make digestive enzymes that break down proteins into amino acids and aid with the uptake of calcium. It's been done for millions of years. But if I were to make a claim on a bottle and say, well, amino acids will protect the plant against powdery mildew, according to the United States government, it would automatically be a fungicide. Oh, no, it's not a fungicide, it's the opposite. Does it prevent fungus? Yes, it's a fungicide. You see, so it's really difficult. When I made some of my first bio-hydroponic fertilizers, I added amino acids to the part A that had the calcium. Kept it soluble, chelated it, the plant took it up, and people were coming to me and saying, Harley, I love that fertilizer. My plants have never been healthier. Thicker stems, thicker cell walls. And I would just say, well, I'm glad to hear that. So instead of making the claim, I would just add it to the nutrients and let the plants tell the story. But anyway, it was in the Netherlands approved as a biostimulant, and the L-amino acids were part of that. Because when I went back to the Netherlands and told them about the experiments I was doing with the 7 primary amino acid chelators, they were pumping me for information. And I said, well, is it the calcium? Is that the key? They said, it's the calcium. So amino acids don't have calcium in them, but it aids with the uptake of calcium, and that makes it an organic biostimulant. There's nitrogen in it. In fact, some people ask me, say, well, I see this NPK ratio, it's really high on nitrogen, would that burn my plant? No, it's part of the molecule. Very little of that nitrogen would be taken up as fertilizer, but it stimulates the uptake of the nutrients. Now, if the plant takes up more calcium, it's going to strengthen the stems and leaves. That's the vascular system of the plant. So the plant's going to take up water and all of the other minerals more efficiently because it's a stronger vascular system. I actually did tests in the lab once I got onto this with the amino acids. I was taking leaf samples, sending them to the lab for analysis. Every essential element, even the trace elements, built up to higher levels than the control. in the plant. So it was taking up water and minerals. And if the plant takes up more minerals, it does more chemical reactions, the Brix went up. I was doing tests, Brix tests, when I was first experimenting with amino acid products. It was off the chart for premium quality. Now, to measure quality objectively, like a produce buyer, it would be low, medium, high Brix, low, medium, high quality. But the Brix of the plants that I was growing was so far above premium quality, I would literally have to create another category for it, statistically. So it was high Brix. And when I was doing my tests, I actually did some tests on some vegetable products. I was growing romaine lettuce with my wife. It was the best of quality. Every store, every restaurant that saw that lettuce bought it at 20% above premium price. Not one no. So that, even in lettuce, which is a very salt-sensitive crop, it was stronger. Now, along with that, I'll tell you another little story. I don't want to get too far behind here, but when we were growing the romaine lettuce in our outdoor hydroponic systems back then, when I was first doing my experiments, we went through 3 hard frosts. Didn't lose a single leaf. And I thought, what is that? How it should be mush. I mean, it was literally, you could snap the leaf, it was frozen. You could scrape the frost off them. It should be turned into mush. Well, I went to Google frost. And it turns out that when there's a frost, the water in the interstitial space crystallizes. It punctures the cell walls, it collapses. So if you get more pectin instead of water in the interstitial space, then it acts as an antifreeze. Literally, for every 1% increase in Brix, you have a half a degree lower freezing temperature. So I was protecting the plant not just against pests and disease, but also against temperature extremes. It was under high humidity, low humidity, hot temperatures in the summer, cold temperatures in the fall, but it was still the best of quality. So it's the uptake. That strong vascular system, especially during vegetative growth, is going to have a downstream effect on quality and yield. Does it sound like what we were seeing in the Netherlands? First in the line for Brix, 0 loss to powdery mildew, and an increase in yield. That's a good day in the garden. Okay, another ingredient that was in the biostimulant. They told me this one. It also had seaweed extracts in it. A lot of the growth stimulants out there, products, even the bloom stimulants and the root stimulants, have kelp. And that's because kelp is loaded with natural growth hormones and also beneficial trace elements from the sea. Over 62 beneficial trace elements that help to turn on enzymes in the plant. Some of those trace elements like iron, copper, manganese, zinc, they're used in very small amounts by the plant, but it turns on an enzyme. And if an enzyme is turned on, just one molecule could do 1,000 chemical reactions per second in the plant. That's why in some of these biostimulant products, just a small amount has a dramatic effect on the plant. Not because of the fertilizer value, but because it's activating enzymes, turning them on so that they can do the chemistry of life more efficiently. Well, some of the hormones, natural ones, in kelp are auxins, cytokinins, and gibberellins. So the auxins and cytokinins, auxins are the rooting hormone. They literally stimulate the plant to make more roots, more rooting sites. Cytokinins literally stimulate cell division. Cytokinesis in biology means cell division. So cytokinins are the hormone that stimulates cell division. When you get the two together, the auxins and the cytokinins, and use it as a root drench, even early on in the plant's development, you'll get more lateral root growth and more root mass. And that's going to help too, because if you get more root mass, that means the plant's going to take up water and minerals more efficiently. It'll be more drought tolerant. It'll be able to have higher Brix, make more sugars. It'll be able to make it through the drought faster as well. Also, the seaweed extracts have gibberellic acid in them. That's great as a seed soak. If you have some older seeds, maybe they weren't stored quite properly, or they're then soak them overnight in kelp extracts. You'll get earlier germination and a better overall germination rate, because gibberellic acid literally starts the cascade of chemical reactions for seed germination. But the auxins and the cytokinins, and they're very high in the cytokinins. Those are to stimulate the cellular division. Now, if you use it at the roots, you get more root mass. If you use kelp as a foliar spray, you'll get more lateral bud development. It literally breaks the apical dominance. That's the top growth. But it stimulates the lateral branching of the plant. You'll get bushier plants, you'll get tighter internodal length, and cytokinins literally pull the nutrients into the developing tissue. It pulls in the sugars, it pulls in the amino acids, it pulls in the nutrients. So even when you stop using the kelp as a foliar, it has a downstream effect on quality and yield. In the Netherlands, in those trials I was watching, they were using it at the roots, the biostimulant, and they were using it as a foliar. So it was aiding with the uptake of the nutrients, and then it was pulling those nutrients into the developing tissue. Okay, along with that, along with kelp, if you want to improve the effectiveness, combine it with humic acid. That's another biostimulant. Now, if Virginia Tech did a 10-year study on biostimulants, and they found that 5 parts humic acid with 2 parts kelp were 50% better than either product alone. And one of the things that they discovered along with that was that it improved the plant's natural tolerance to stress. It stimulates the plant, that 5:2 ratio, humic acid to kelp, stimulates the plant to make 50% more of a plant protection agent called superoxide dismutase. It sponges free radicals. When the plant's under stress, sometimes it can't keep up with the free radicals, and those free radicals attack the cell membranes. The cell membranes, the chloroplast membranes, that's where photosynthesis is done. They attack the mitochondrial membranes. That's the power plant of the cell. That's where the energy is released to grow and to reproduce. So if they're under attack by free radicals, they're breaking down membranes. But you use that 5:2 ratio before the stress. Before the stress. The plant's going to be able to sponge that, so it'll be more resistant to heat stress, to drought stress, UV stress from your lights, salt stress. So that they'll stay green longer because the chloroplast will stay intent, and they'll stay actively growing longer and recover from the stress faster. So that was a discovery from Virginia Tech, 5:2 ratio. So if you're using kelp in a growth stimulant, a bloom stimulant, or even as a root stimulant, you want to add humic acid with it. Now the humic and fulvic acids are biologically active molecules. They're, again, intermediate chelators, but they work a little differently than the amino acids. The humic acid fraction are large molecules that literally will form a bridge between the clay particles and the minerals. Makes it easier for the plant to take them up. The fulvic acid fraction are smaller, more biologically active molecules, and they literally will aid with the uptake of iron. Humic and fulvic acids both do that. If you use fulvic acid as a foliar, it'll transport the iron through the cell membranes, release it inside the cell where it's needed the most. And if the plant takes in the iron, iron is a catalyst for chlorophyll production, the green pigment that literally harvests the energy from the sun to make more sugars. Also, when we stimulate with that 5:2 ratio, the superoxide dismutase, that molecule, the plant protection agent, it has to be activated. It has to be turned on. And that's either turned on by an iron-manganese complex or a copper-zinc complex. So the humic and fulvic acids make those trace elements more available, turn on the enzymes, so even one molecule of superoxide dismutase can literally break 1,000 chemical reactions, break 1,000 of that superoxide free radicals per second inside the cell. So that's why the two work synergistically. Um, Also in nature, humic and fulvic acids buffer pH. It raises the pH of acid soil, it lowers the pH of alkaline soil. So if it's buffered in the root zone, it'll be easier for the plant to take up minerals, especially iron. That's what humic and fulvic acids are known for in the rhizosphere, in the biochemical reactions. One of the things that the humic acid does, it stimulates the activity of another enzyme that's in the cell membranes, even of the roots. It's called H plus ATPase. It's a proton pump. So we have a cell membrane. The humic acid stimulates the membranes to pump protons, positively charged ions. So the inside of the membrane becomes more negatively charged. The outside of the membrane becomes more positively charged. So the voltage potential increases across the membranes. And when that happens, the plant can take up minerals, even nitrate, nitrogen, more efficiency, especially the ones that are hard to take up like iron. Iron is very pH sensitive. So if they're pumping protons to the outside of the cell membranes, it becomes more acidic, the iron becomes soluble, the plant takes it up because it has more energy to do it. A very small amount, dramatic effect on the plant, especially the iron uptake. Okay, also it has 62 beneficial trace elements, so the humic and fulvic acids, along with the kelp especially, will improve flavor and nutrition. It'll improve the nutritional value of food and the medicinal value of the medicines. Medicinal herbs, they need the ideal levels of iron and manganese to make the medicinal compounds in the plants. So it does have an effect on the medicinal value of the plant. And if they take up more trace elements, those are good for us. When we eat the plants, they'll improve our nutrition. If there's more antioxidants, more vitamins being produced by the plants to protect it, that's better for us as well. So we're improving the nutritional value of food, the medicinal value of the medicines. Okay, let's move on here. B vitamins, that almost every biostimulant product that's on the shelves in the stores, including the biostimulants that they were using in the Netherlands, are added B vitamins. Now, B vitamins, one dose of B1 at the roots stimulate what's called the systemic induced resistance of the plant. It puts the plant on high alert. It sensitizes the plant. So if it comes under attack, say by powdery mildew, the plant's natural immune system will respond almost instantly, very quickly. So if the immune response of the plant responds more quickly, then the plant recovers more quickly from the stress as well. So it's a beneficial thing. It'll help protect against attack by pathogens. Powdery mildew at the leaves, or say a root pathogen like root rots, Pythium, Rhizoctonia at the root zone. So it adds a protective layer. And by the way, kelp extracts are high in B vitamins. They have amino acids and B vitamins in them. That's why it's such an important ingredient in any biostimulant product that you use. It will also help protect against stress and will activate enzymes. Again, here we go again, common theme. An enzyme does chemical reaction, and it does it at room temperature. But the enzymes that are used in cellular metabolism to release energy for the plant are turned on by coenzymes, usually B vitamin derivatives, B1, B2, B3, B6. They activate and stimulate cellular metabolism. So it stimulates the metabolism of root cells, and it stimulates the metabolism of microorganisms. So when you use it in soil, you're stimulating the metabolism of the microbes so they can use the sugars more efficiently and release energy. And that energy, they start vibrating, the microbes. And when they vibrate with energy, they divide. And it's when the microbes are actively dividing that they make the biostimulants. They actually make rooting hormones right on the surface of the root. So the B vitamins are kind of, I would say, the icing on the cake. In and of themselves, they're not going to do a lot. But in combination with other biostimulants, they're going to enhance the entire process. Okay, next is Yucca. Yucca is a natural wetting agent. It makes water wetter. When I made my first biohydroponic fertilizers, where I combined the minerals and the organic biostimulants, the part A that had the calcium, I added amino acids, biotech grade. The part B, I added humic acid and kelp, 5:2 ratio, little bit of B vitamins. But then I added a little bit, very small amount of yucca extract. Now, biologically active molecules, organics, and the minerals in concentrate form, they don't play well together. They have opposite characteristics. When I added a little bit of yucca, it would keep the organic molecules and the minerals in suspension with each other. Also, it's a wetting agent. So when you use yucca at the root zone, the water disperses through the entire root zone. So it will help flush away any excess pockets of minerals, salts that are developing in the root zone, and also it helps the biostimulants spread out and get to all of the developing root hairs. So it has a positive effect on the plant. It'll actually help stimulate root growth. Not because of an ingredient in the yucca, it's because the water disperses and the developing roots follow the water. So you get a finer web, a sponge of roots. And all of the biostimulants, the hormones, the trace elements, the chelated nutrients, they'll go to all the developing root hairs, not just through channels and around the outside of the pot. So it's a nice thing to add a very small amount. I'd add literally a 1/16 of a teaspoon will treat 5 gallons of water. So that I use just a very, very small amount in my biohydroponic fertilizers. It's also great to add if you're using the biostimulants as a foliar, because instead of the water beating up on the waxy surface of the leaf, it spreads out in a thin film. It's more evenly and efficiently absorbed by the plant. It's going to be more effective. So use it in your foliar and use it at the roots. It'll just have a positive effect. And yucca, by the way, is a natural fungicide. It has what are called saponins. It's a molecule in the yucca extract itself. And plants literally make saponins. It's part of their natural resistance to fungi. They make the saponins even before they're under attack by fungus. So if you use it as a foliar, you're literally improving the plant's resistance to fungi too, along with the nutritional value that you're adding in the biostimulants. Okay, next comes the carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates normally you wouldn't think of as a biostimulant, but it is, and this is why. Because the carbohydrates feed the microorganisms. And then the microorganisms make the enzymes and the organic acids and the biostimulants that feed the plant. The microorganisms are literally the biostimulant factories. Most of the biostimulant products we harvest from, they're either from plant extracts, like the kelp and the yucca, or they're harvested from microorganisms that are the products of the enzymes of the plant. And so you have the cofactors, the coenzymes. Microorganisms make B vitamins right on the surface of the roots. They make the hormones. Okay, so especially toward the end of flowering, the plants will start to hoard the carbohydrates. They want to store them in the flowers. They want to store them in the seeds and in the fruit. So they stop leaking carbohydrates to feed the microorganisms. And at that point, some of the complex carbohydrates will feed the microbes. They'll keep them biologically active all the way to the day of harvest. Now, here's the key. Remember, the microorganisms, the plant growth promoting rhizobacteria, some of the mycorrhizal fungi in the root zone are the biostimulant factories. Come back in 2 weeks, we're going to have a whole class just on the superstars, the key players in the rhizosphere. But they make growth hormones. Literally, some microorganisms, such as Bacillus subtilis, GBO3, and others, they make rooting hormone right on the surface of the root. They'll take an amino acid, tryptophan, they'll snip off a nitrogen ion, an ammonium ion, it changes the tryptophan into indolacetic acid, the rooting hormone, right on the surface of the roots. Now, why would microorganisms want to stimulate root growth of the plant? What benefit is that? The genetic code in every living cell, in every living organism says the same thing. Be fruitful, multiply. So if the microorganisms can stimulate more root growth and more root mass, there's more surface area for the microorganisms to colonize. So they can grow and reproduce while the plant is. And they're going to aid with the uptake of the nutrients so the plant makes more sugars to leak them to feed the microbes. So if you work with nature, there are positive side effects that we haven't even discovered yet, that are waiting to be discovered. If we work against nature, eventually there are positive or negative side effects to the plants, to the environment, or to human beings. So it's best to work with them. Now, they make growth hormones. They literally make B vitamins right on the surface of the root. That way they stimulate the metabolism of the microorganisms around them. So they have some teamwork going on and stimulate and protect the plant from infection by pathogens. They make amino acids. As the microorganisms are dividing, they make digestive enzymes called proteases that break down proteins into amino acids right on the surface of the roots. And those amino acids, like glutamic acid and glycine, aid with the uptake of calcium. The other amino acid, tryptophan, is changed into, the plant takes it up to the leaves, changes it into IAA, the growth hormone. And then it's pumped. The growth hormones that the plant makes themselves. This isn't artificial. This is the plant making them. Those hormones are pumped to the growing tips and they're pumped to the roots. And by the way, calcium activates the enzymes that pump the growth hormones to the new growth and to the new root development. A positive side effect, a cascade of positive side effects to improve quality and yield. Microbes make organic acids. They make what are called Krebs cycle intermediates. We'll talk more about these in a couple of weeks, but they literally make citric acid, other organic acids that aid with the uptake of iron, copper, manganese, zinc. It activates the enzymes that the microbes produce and activates enzymes inside the plant as the plant grows and reproduces. They literally make another molecule called a siderophore. And siderophore literally means iron carrier. It's one of the best chelators of iron in nature. So the microbes actually make organic acids to make the surface of the roots a little more acidic, and they also make special molecules to keep the iron soluble and available to the plant. So they use the iron for their own metabolism because it gets acted as part of the electron transport chain in the mitochondria. A little bit more science than I wanted to get into tonight, but it also activates enzymes inside the plant itself. So there's teamwork going on. So if you feed the microbes and stimulate them, especially toward the end of flowering, they make the biostimulants to keep the plant photosynthetically active all the way to the day of harvest. And the last one here, the volatile organic compounds, those are VOCs. Those are like a bouquet of aromas that we can't put in a bottle. I wish I could put them in a bottle and feed them to the plant at the right time, but those are made real time in nature's kitchen by microorganisms. And even if the microbe doesn't touch the root or doesn't touch the plant, those volatile organic compounds communicate with the plant. They literally activate up to 600 different genes in the plant. One of those genes that activates tells the plant, take up more iron. Why? Plant takes up more iron, it's going to make more chlorophyll. Plant makes more chlorophyll, it's going to harvest more light energy. Plant harvests more light energy, it's going to make more sugars, higher bricks. Some of those sugars will be used for energy to grow and reproduce. Some will be stored in the flowers and the fruit, so they'll build up and improve in quality. Some will be leaked to feed the microbes. The process of life goes on. Also, one of the other volatile organic compounds, I'll tell you about quickly, literally turns off the genes that are the sugar signal in the plant. Normally, when the plant accumulates enough sugars for its life, it stops doing photosynthesis. It starts to shut down. It just wants to coast to the end on the stored sugars it has. But if it gets a whiff of that volatile organic compound, it turns off the sugar signal. The plant doesn't know it has enough sugars. So it will continue to do photosynthesis. It will continue to accumulate sugars all the way to the day of harvest. So to summarize here, when you add the cane molasses, the sugar doesn't go into the plant. It feeds the microorganisms, and the microbes tell the plant to make more sugars. That's why it sweetens up at the end. Okay, and that's going to have an effect on quality, and again, effect on yield. High bricks in the very end. Okay, we only have a few more minutes left in the lecture, but like I said, toward the end, or about 4 or 5 years after I went to the Netherlands the first time to see the biostimulant products they were making, I went back and for another tour, and we were looking at how they were using biostimulants in the biofilters to clean the water at room temperature. They were actually stimulating the metabolism of the microorganisms. They could clean the water in 2 minutes. So, well, that's a whole other topic right there. I'll have to remember that one for a class. But they literally, instead of using ultraviolet sterilization or heat sterilization, they ran the water through a biofilter. They added little biostimulants, increased the metabolism of the microbes. They made the enzymes. They reduced E. coli to 0. And it had a beneficial effect on the plant at the same time. But when I went back to the Netherlands, specifically while I was there, touring the greenhouses, I got to take a side trip to Belgium. And my wife and I got to visit the most prestigious research greenhouse in Europe. And at that time, they were literally doing some of the first trials on bloom stimulants to improve fruit and flower production. Now here it is in the trial. That's my wife Sue. They were doing the test for the bloom stimulants on sweet peppers. The control, just with the hydroponics, 12 feet tall, loaded with peppers. According to the scientists there at their greenhouse, they said under those conditions, if you got a 2% increase in yield, it would be statistically significant. But halfway through the trial, I got to see the results again. They were at 10% increase in yield and rising. Now, and it wasn't just more flowers and fruit. They were improved quality as well. I got to visit another commercial greenhouse where they were using the bloom stimulants. They were growing the best of sweet peppers, shipping them to New York City for the expensive restaurants over here. And they were telling me they were bigger fruit. They had 2 weeks longer shelf life. Because, again, it was the calcium uptake. The calcium makes the pectin for heavier fruit and flower production. Improves the quality of the flowers as well, and the production. And when I visited the commercial greenhouse, this was the grower right there, taking pictures. He says, well, why are you taking pictures of the plant? I said, well, in the United States, we don't get to see 12-foot pepper plants. He said, well, you should be taking a picture of the bottom of the plant. I said, what? So he showed me down there, a little sucker, vegetative sucker, was coming out of the bottom of a 12-foot tall plant. It had 3 sets of peppers on it. That's not normal. So the bloom stimulants are literally activating genes in the plant that tell the plant, don't make more stems and leaves, make flowering parts for more blooms, for bigger blooms, for more, and again, improve fruit quality later on with the calcium uptake. So if you're getting this kind of fruit production at the bottom of the plant, think what's happening in the canopy where all the photosynthetic activity is happening. So part of that key, I'm out of time here, I guess I can't tell you the rest of it, but the key there is I'll just tell you real quickly, is a zinc finger transcription factor. Okay, again, an amino acid, cysteine. 4 amino acids, 4 cysteine molecules attached to one zinc ion. It makes a molecule called a zinc finger transcription factor. It goes into the cell, into the nucleus, attaches to the DNA, and turns on a series of genes that tells the plant, don't make more stems and leaves, make flowering parts. So when you turn on those genes and leave them on, you get more blooms and bigger blooms. When you turn on enzymes with the coenzymes and cofactors, it turns them on, leaves them on. And then you can use a very small amount because you can't turn them more on. They're either on or they're off. So a very, very small amount, they were seeing 10 or even 20% increase in yield. Okay, let me finish up here. We're about done with this lecture. I'm going over time. But here's the future. This is where we need to go in the future. We need to study the dynamics between plants and plant growth promoting rhizobacteria in the rhizosphere. We need to discover new signal molecules, new transcription factors. We're just beginning to scratch the surface of that complex area in just a couple millimeters from the surface of the roots in nature. Now we can do that. We can harvest microbes from the most fertile soil. We can inoculate the roots. And we can, along with that, we need to be able to find those specific molecules, give them to the plant at the right time. We need to bridge the gap between mineral and organic nutrition. And with that, we need to improve the plant's natural resistance to pests and disease. We can't just keep using, indiscriminately making new fungicides, new pesticides. We're just contaminating our food supply. We don't want to use that on our medicines as well. So if we can improve the plant's natural resistance to pests and disease, we can reduce or eliminate pesticides and fungicides in the future. And with that, we want to condition the plants against environmental stress so that we can grow more, improve the nutritional value of food, grow more food with fewer resources. Okay, I guess that's it. The food today has lower nutrition than the food that our grandparents produced. Why? Because we've been over-fertilizing. If you overdo it with nitrate nitrogen, you're going to get big cells with thin cell walls, but it's going to actually attract more pests and disease. It's an easy meal. It makes it more susceptible to powdery mildew. The Brix goes down because the plant burns the energy. So we want to be able to reduce the amount of nitrates and phosphates to adequate levels, but improve the uptake of those nutrients and turn on enzymes and turn on genes.